My fingernails dug crescents into my palms as Veronica's words sliced through the glass conference room wall. "She looks like she raided a dumpster behind Goodwill," she announced, pointing directly at me while addressing her husband. The fluorescent lights suddenly seemed too bright, the office noise fading to a distant hum as blood rushed to my ears. "Either she goes or I stop coming to these investor meetings." 37 developers froze, fingers hovering over keyboards, all pretending not to witness my public execution. I felt their eyes flickering between me and the conference room, where Veronica Hartley, perfectly coiffed in her designer suit, stood like a prosecutor delivering a death sentence about my ancient MIT hoodie, faded jeans, and duct-taped sneakers. What she didn't see was the folder Sarah from HR was carrying toward us, documents that would transform me from target to owner in exactly 73 seconds. "My name is Olivia, I'm 32 and a software engineer. This is the story of how I went from being the office bag lady to the woman who owned everything. For 5 years, I'd worn the same comfortable clothes to Hartley Technologies, not because I couldn't afford better, but because comfort mattered more than appearance when you're coding until 3 a.m. The MIT hoodie had seen me through my first startup, through the $42 million acquisition nobody here knew about, and through countless nights rebuilding Hartley's failing architecture while Michael took credit. "I'm serious, Michael," Veronica continued, her voice deliberately loud enough for everyone to hear. "What will clients think when they see that representing our company?" Michael Hartley shifted uncomfortably in his expensive chair. At 55, he'd built the company from nothing to a mid-sized firm worth about $40 million, but had apparently never learned to stand up to his trophy wife. "I'll handle it, dear," he said, his voice carrying through the thin walls. "Now, Michael," Veronica cut him off. "It's bad enough you hire these programmer types who think hygiene is optional, but this one takes it to new extremes. Is she homeless? Does she live in her car?" The whispers started immediately. 2 junior developers exchanged glances. The project manager winced. Nobody spoke up, they never did when Veronica went on her monthly rampages about the company image. This time was different though. This time I had the power to respond. Sarah from HR knocked on the conference room door, then entered without waiting for permission. "Mr. Hartley, we need to discuss something urgently." "Can it wait?" Veronica snapped. "We are in the middle of terminating an employee." "Actually, that's what I need to discuss." Sarah glanced at me through the glass, then back at the Hartleys. "There's been a development regarding the company ownership structure." Michael frowned. "What development?" "I own 75% of the company. The rest is split among early investors." "That was true until this morning," Sarah said carefully. "There have been some acquisitions." "What acquisitions?" Veronica's voice went sharp. "Michael, what is she talking about?" Sarah opened her folder. "Over the past 6 months, someone has been quietly buying shares from your early investors. As of 9 a.m. today, that entity now owns 60% of Hartley Technologies." The color drained from Michael's face. "That's impossible. I have right of first refusal on any sales." "Which expired last year," Sarah reminded him. "You chose not to renew it during the last board meeting." "Because we were stable." "Because I trusted," he stopped. "Who? Who bought the shares?" Sarah looked at me again. "Perhaps Miss Turner should join this conversation." "The bag lady?" Veronica scoffed. "Why would?" "Because," Sarah said, "she's your new majority shareholder." The silence that followed was so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. Every developer had abandoned all pretense of working, openly staring at the conference room drama unfolding. My moment had arrived. I saved my code, pushed back from my desk, and walked deliberately to the conference room, feeling the weight of 40 pairs of eyes following my every step. Up close, Veronica's designer suit probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Her jewelry could have funded a startup. Her shoes were impractical but definitely expensive. I settled into a chair across from them. "Morning, everyone. Interesting meeting." "Don't be cute," Veronica snapped. "Michael, this is obviously some kind of mistake." "It's not a mistake," I said, leaning forward slightly. "Jason was happy to sell his 15%. He wanted to invest in his son's company. Daisy needed liquidity for her divorce. Thomas just wanted out. One by one, I made them offers they couldn't refuse." "With what money?" Michael's voice was strangled. "Your salary is $70,000 a year. I know. I set it that low myself when we started. Felt wrong to take more when we were struggling. Then how? Remember Technova? The startup that got acquired by Microsoft 5 years ago. Michael blinked slowly, recognition dawning. My startup. My acquisition. $42 million. Veronica laughed. The sound sharp and disbelieving. You expect us to believe that you sold a company to Microsoft for $40 million and then came to work here for $70,000? Dressed like that. I didn't need the money. I needed the challenge. I ran my finger along a scratch in the conference table. Hartley Tech was failing when I joined. Bad architecture, worse management, zero innovation. It was perfect. Perfect? Michael looked lost. For fixing. I'm good at fixing broken things, companies, code, systems. It's what I do. But why stay hidden? Why let me think you were just another developer? Because that's when I do my best work. When people underestimate me, when they judge me by my appearance instead of my output. I gestured to my hoodie. This has seen me through MIT, through my first startup, through the acquisition. It's comfortable. It's familiar. It's mine. Sarah cleared her throat. There's more. Miss Turner also owns several patents that Hartley Technologies currently licenses. The payment structure on those is extremely favorable to the company. Another gift, I added. I believe in this place, Michael, in what it could be, what it was becoming before. I looked directly at Veronica. Image became more important than innovation. This is insane, Veronica stood, her heels clicking angrily on the floor. Michael, fire her anyway. You're still CEO. Actually, Sarah interjected, as majority shareholder, Miss Turner has the power to call a board meeting and replace leadership. I'm not firing Michael, I said calmly. He's a decent CEO when he's not being managed by his wife. How dare you, Veronica hissed. You've visited this office exactly 12 times in 5 years. Each time you've demanded we fire someone for their appearance, the receptionist with pink hair, the developer with facial piercings, the project manager who wore sneakers, me repeatedly. I was protecting our image. You were projecting your insecurities. This is a tech company, not a fashion show. Our clients care about clean code, not clean clothes. Michael finally found his voice. You could have told me about the shares, about your background. Would it have mattered? Would you have stood up to Veronica differently? Or would you have just tried to leverage my wealth instead of my skills? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. So what happens now? Veronica demanded. You fire us? Destroy everything Michael built. Everything Michael built. I pulled out my laptop, showing commit histories. 80% of our current codebase is mine. The architecture that allowed us to scale, mine. The algorithm that made our product competitive, mine. The client relationships that saved us during the downturn, built on software I wrote at 3 a.m. while you were complaining about the office furniture. You're just a programmer, she spat. I'm an engineer. And now I'm your majority shareholder, which means things are going to change. What kind of changes? Michael asked wearily. First, no more image consultations from non-employees. Veronica, your services are no longer needed. You can't ban me from my husband's company. I can ban non-essential personnel who create hostile work environments. You've made multiple employees cry. You've caused 2 excellent developers to quit. You've made coming to work miserable for anyone who doesn't meet your aesthetic standards. Michael. Veronica turned to her husband. Do something. Michael looked between us, his breathing shallow. I could see him weighing his marriage against his company, his ego against his equity. She owns 60%, he said finally. I don't care if she owns 100%. I'm your wife. And I'm his boss now, I said quietly. Michael, you have a choice. Continue as CEO under new ownership, focusing on what you do best, strategy and client relationships, while I handle the technical direction, or cash out your remaining 15% and walk away. 15? He went pale. I own 40%. I shook my head slowly. You've been diluted. Didn't read the fine print on those investor agreements, did you? Every time they sold, your percentage decreased proportionally. Sarah nodded, pulling out more documents. Current ownership structure, Olivia Turner, 60%. Michael Hartley, 15%. Various minor investors, 25%. This is theft, Veronica hissed, her knuckles white around her purse. This is business. Legal, ethical, documented business. Why? Michael asked quietly. Why not just start your own company? Why take mine? I leaned forward, feeling the weight of 5 years of silent work. Because it wasn't yours anymore. It was ours. Every late-night debugging, every weekend deployment, every crisis solved, I was here. You were at galas with Veronica playing CEO while I played programmer. Well, game's over. So you'll destroy us out of spite. Destroy? I laughed. Michael, I just invested $30 million of my own money into this company. Why would I destroy it? 30 million? He grabbed the table for support. The share purchases. Plus, I'm about to inject another $10 million for expansion. We are going to build the development team, upgrade our infrastructure, and actually deliver on those promises you've been making to enterprise clients. But you dress like someone who cares more about comfort than conformity. Like someone who values function over form, like every other successful tech founder who realized that genius doesn't require a dress code. I stood, walking to the window. The view overlooked the parking lot where my 1998 Honda Civic sat between a line of BMWs and Teslas. You know what's funny? I could buy a new car every day for a year and not notice the expense. I could wear designer everything, live in a mansion, play the wealth game. But why? So people like Veronica would approve of me. I was trying to help, Veronica said weakly. You were trying to control, to make this place reflect your values instead of ours. Well, congratulations. You succeeded in making me reveal myself. Now you get to see what happens when the bag lady takes charge. What happens? Michael asked, his voice barely audible. First, we implement a results-only work environment. Come in wearing pajamas for all I care, as long as your code compiles and your projects ship. Second, we are hiring based on talent, not appearance. Third, we are promoting from within, starting with Paula Ryan, who's been carrying your entire dev team while making half what she's worth. Paula's too junior. Paula has a PhD from Stanford and shipped 3 critical features while you were at that investor retreat in Cabo. She's getting your old salary, Michael. You'll be taking a cut. You can't. Check the bylaws. Majority shareholder sets compensation. You want to stay? You'll take $150,000 and be grateful. Want to leave? I'll buy you out at market rate. Market rate is about $3 million for your 15%. Enough to keep Veronica in designer shoes for a few years. Veronica grabbed her purse, rage making her movements sharp. This isn't over. I'll sue. Hostile takeover. Workplace harassment. Harassment? I pulled out my phone. Should we review the security footage? How many times you've commented on my appearance? Called me homeless? Suggested I might steal from the office kitchen? She went pale. You recorded me? The building records everything. Amazing what you learn when you actually talk to the security staff instead of trying to get them fired for their tattoos. Michael, we're leaving. Michael didn't move. Actually, he said slowly, I think I'll stay. What? Veronica's voice cracked. He looked at me, something like respect dawning in his eyes. You played the long game. Bought the shares. Kept quiet. Let me take credit while you built the foundation. That's impressive. That's business. No, that's patience. Strategy. Everything you pretended to have while I actually demonstrated it. I met his gaze directly. Do you really think you can work for me? He straightened. I'll take the pay cut. I'll report to you. Just let me prove I can be more than Veronica's puppet. I've watched you struggle between your genuine passion for this company and Veronica's influence for years, Michael. Every time she left, you'd make decisions that showed your real priorities. That's why I'm giving you this chance. Michael. Veronica shrieked, her carefully applied makeup now smudged at the corners of her eyes. Go home, Veronica. We'll talk tonight. Right now, I need to have a real conversation with my boss. She stormed out, heels clicking furiously across the hardwood floor. Through the glass, we watched her sweep past the developers who weren't even pretending not to stare anymore. So, Michael said after she left. What's the real plan? I pulled up a presentation I'd been refining for 2 years. We are going to pivot from small business solutions to enterprise integration. The architecture I've built can scale to handle Fortune 500 needs. We are going to hire the best engineers regardless of their fashion sense. We are going to build something that matters. And my role? You're good with people, Michael, when you're not trying to impress Veronica. So be good with people. Handle the relationships while I handle the technology. That's it? No revenge? No humiliation. I tilted my head. Would it help? You let your wife bully your employees because you were afraid of conflict. Now you know what real power looks like. It doesn't announce itself with designer labels. I used a series of investment vehicles and LLCs set up after my Microsoft acquisition to make the purchases appear unrelated. My financial advisors handled the transactions through separate channels, which is why neither you nor your lawyers connected the dots. Sarah, who'd been quietly documenting everything, spoke up. Should I inform the staff about the ownership change? I briefed Sarah this morning before the meeting. As head of HR, she needed to know about the ownership change before I could address Veronica's behavior. The timing of your wife's outburst just provided the perfect opportunity. Monday morning, all hands meeting. For now, let them process the show they just witnessed. I glanced at the developers, some of whom were openly grinning. And Sarah, draft a new dress code policy. Certainly. Business formal? Business casual? Come as you are. Results, not runway. I looked at Michael. Any objections? 60% says no. No objections. He managed a small smile. You know, I always wondered why someone with your skills stayed for that salary. Now you know. I wasn't here for the money. I was here for the company. I stood straighter. My company now. Our company, he corrected. I still own 15%. Fair enough. Our company. Run my way. As part of restructuring the company, I transferred full ownership of my patents to Hartley Technologies. It seemed only fair since I now owned the majority of the company anyway. As I left the conference room, the entire floor burst into spontaneous applause. Paula was crying quietly at her desk. The kid from support who Veronica had tried to fire for his gauge earrings gave me a thumbs up. Even the receptionist with pink hair, rehired after I'd quietly intervened, was grinning. Hey Olivia, someone called out. Or should we call you boss now? Olivia's fine. Boss is just a title. I swept my gaze across the room of brilliant minds who had been judged on everything except their brilliance. We've got work to do, in our homeless chic attire, in whatever makes you comfortable enough to create brilliance. As the workday came to a close, I walked through the office and out to the parking lot, where my Honda waited faithfully, rust spots and all. I could buy a Tesla. Hell, I could buy the Tesla company. But this car had driven me to my first day at MIT, to my first startup, to the Microsoft acquisition, and to Hartley Technologies when it was struggling. It was comfortable. It was familiar. It was mine. Just like my company. 3 months later, Michael finalized his divorce from Veronica. He told me it wasn't just about the company incident, but about realizing how her values had never aligned with his vision for his life and work. I spent my first 4 years at Hartley observing, learning, and rebuilding. Only in the last 6 months, once I was certain the company had potential worth saving, did I begin approaching shareholders. Each investor approached me privately with concerns about the company's direction. With my technical background and Microsoft connections, I was able to offer them confidential discussions outside office hours, using my personal communication channels that Michael never monitored.